Hey guys, good morning. So we're going to be starting our new unit with angles. So here's our standard that we're focusing on. It's 8.GA1B. Let me go ahead and highlight that for you. So if you want, please take out a piece of paper. You're going to want to take some notes. I'm going to take some screenshots from IXL so that I can show you how to do some of the problems. But to be able to do the problems, you have to know the academic language. So here's your standard, and then the academic language that we're going to cover today to help you with your IXL. By the end of today, you should be able to complete IXL 0.13. And here we go. So to be able to do this, we're going to be talking about angles. Okay, so the standard says angles, angles taken to angles of the same measure. Okay, so we're not quite looking at angles yet. We're not comparing them. Before we do that, we're going to talk about parts that make angles. So let's go ahead and begin with our academic language. So when you have a line segment, right, and then meets up with another line segment, we form what's called an angle, right? And this angle is measured in degrees. So how much you open up, right, this angle would be a measure of degrees. Okay, so this is called a measure of degrees. Okay, so you would say maybe looks about 60 degrees. 60 degrees. We use a protractor. Okay, we use a to measure. So a protractor looks like this. You've probably seen this. Maybe I should log on to Google. And it measures, right? I should get an image. Here we go. I got one from online. So here's a protractor, guys. And this protractor is going to help us to find a measure, right? So this is where 90 degrees comes from. So this is like a ruler that measures how wide something opens. So this would be 0, right? So this is 0 degrees. And then when you open this much, right? Your angle, you guys know this is 90 degrees, right? Remember how you have that 90 degrees? So you went from 0 to 90 degrees. And then if you keep opening, then you have 180 degrees. Okay, so what you'll notice is that you actually have another 90 degree here. So it's 90 degrees plus 90 degrees equals 180 degrees. So when you open up all the way, that's called a 180 degree angle. Okay? So all these things have names. Okay, so let's talk about your IXL. Here's our vocab. You need to know what our adjacent angles are. Okay, you need to know what are, should I know congruent? So adjacent, complementary, okay, so here's your academic language, complementary, supplementary angles. Okay, take a moment to write these down really quick. So you're going to need these academic language words to be able to do your IXL. Okay? Okay, so I went ahead and took the notes ahead of time so that you can go ahead and copy it. So feel free to push pause. You could use these notes. Maybe take a screenshot or just have two windows open and split your screen so that you can have these notes right next to you while you do your IXL, okay? So first of all, adjacent angles. So adjacent angles are two angles that are adjacent when they have a common side and a common vertex, and they don't overlap and they're not separate, right? So we gotta talk about this word vertex. Okay, so here's my vertex. Vertex is when it's right here. It's the point where two line segments meet. Okay, so when you have two angles, so if you look here, here's one angle, and then if you look here, here's another angle, right? So here you got two angles, and you're gonna see this little sign like that. That means angle. So angle B, right, is adjacent to angle A. So these are adjacent. Okay, because they are two angles that share a common side and share a vertex. Okay, example 2. If you notice here, look, I use a variable, right? This was just B, and that was just angle A. Now over here, I'm using angle measures. Okay, so this is a acute angle, 39 degrees. Here's a smaller angle, 22 degrees. So you would say angle or measure of angle 39 and angle 22 are adjacent angles, right? Or you can label them. This could be angle X and this could be angle Y. So measure of angle X and measure of angle Y are adjacent. Okay? That stands for measure. Okay, now go ahead and look at this one right here. Are these angles adjacent? So you got two angles, right? Now the definition says that they have to have a common side, right? A common side and common vertex, right? So here's a vertex, but then, hold up, there's another vertex. And they're not sharing a side, so this one is not adjacent. Okay, next one. Feel free to pause at any time. I'm trying to make this video kind of short so it doesn't take forever to upload. So here we go. Next word is complementary. Complementary angles are two angles whose sum, right, so you got to be able to add them up, is 90 degrees. So here we go. So we need two angles. Here's one angle. We'll call that angle, I don't know, P. And then, so we'll call it angle P. And we'll call this angle, let's call it angle Q. Okay, so if I do angle P plus angle Q, right, this stands for angle. Angle P plus angle Q, does that equal 90 degrees? So what is angle P? Let's substitute. Angle P is 45. And what is angle Q? Oh, it's also 45. Okay. So then when you do 45 plus 45, it does equal 90 degrees. So you would say when you can add the angles that are next to each other and they add up to 90 degrees, you call them complementary. Okay, complementary angles. All right, how about this one? You give it a try. So push pause if you need to. I'll leave the notes here. Is example 2 are they complementary angles? Angles that add up to 90 degrees. Two angles, okay? It can't be three, it has to be two. Okay, so enough time. Measure angle, I don't know, we'll call it angle 4, and we'll call this angle 5. So measure of angle 4. So you see how I'm naming them different things? Does a measure of angle 4 plus a measure of angle 5 equal 90? Well, then you would do substitution, 60 plus 30 Yep, it equals 90 degrees. So this is also complementary angles, two angles that add up to 90. Okay, so adjacent angles are two angles that are next to each other. They share a line and they share a common vertex, so they share a wall, right? Next one, supplementary. Supplementary angles are two angles whose sum is 180. So now we're looking at angles that add up to 180. So you already saw something on the protractor. What are two angles? Okay, this is 90 degrees, right? And this is 90 degrees. And if you add up 90 plus 90, what do you get? 180. So those are supplementary angles, right? So supplementary, let's do some notes. First of all, let's shrink this. Oh man, I don't think I know how to do that anymore. Okay, so here we go. Supplementary angles are two angles whose sum is 180. So whenever you get a supplementary angle question on Excel, go ahead and fast forward to this part if you need the notes or unless you're taking notes. Okay, so supplementary angles are two angles who add up, right? So sum means to add, right? So if I take angle A plus angle B, they should add up to equal 180 degrees, right? That's what it should equal to be supplementary. So measure angle A plus B should make a flat line, a straight angle. So let's see if that's true. So measure angle A is 150. So let's substitute 150 plus measure angle B is 30 degrees. So we're going to put 30. And does 150 plus 30 equal 180? Yes. So therefore, these are supplementary. Okay, angles, meaning that they add up to 180. Okay, now go ahead and take a look at this one. I put this here just so that you know we call this little angle X. We call this big angle, obtuse angle, Y. Okay, just so that you know. Now, are these supplementary? Supplementary. Okay, the definition says that they have to add up to 180. So let's go see. So 137 plus 43, right? 180. Check. Okay, so you're going to do measure angle X plus measure angle, my bad, angle Y. It should equal maybe, right, 180. If it does, they're supplementary. So what was measure of angle X? It equals 43 plus, what is the measure of angle Y? 137, and we already did the math, right? 7 plus 3 is 10, carry the 1, 4 is 7, plus 1 is 8. Okay, here we go. So here we go. So this is also supplementary. All right, so here we go. Next one, we're almost done. Vertical angles, right? Vertical, oops, I deleted that, not highlighted. Okay, so now vertical angles are two angles opposite of each other, okay? Opposite is our word now. So let's use a different color. Opposite of each other. So vertical angles are two angles that are opposite. So how do you get angles that are opposite? So we're gonna scoot down here, guys. So vertical angles are angles that are Alright, so vertical angles are angles that are opposite of each other. So in order for you to have angles opposite, you need to have lines, right, that make what I call V angles. Okay, so we're going to label all the angles you see. Okay, so here's one angle, here's two angles, here's three angles, here's four angles, right? But let's use variables. Instead of numbers, we're going to use letters to name the angles. So this is angle A, angle B, angle C, and angle D. So there are four angles. Now, you need two angles that are opposite of each other to be able to call them vertical angles, right? So in order to be vertical, you got to be opposite. So let's go ahead and look for angles that are opposite. So if you look at angle B, it's on the top. Who's opposite of B? D. Okay, so do you see how these right here are used? These arcs are used to identify that they are vertical, right? They're the congruent, they're the same. So now, how do you say that? You would say measure angle B is vertical to measure angle D. Or that measure angle B and measure angle D are vertical angles. Why? Because they are opposite, using your definition. Okay, so now, do you see another pair? Don't you have a V here? That's a vertical, right? So measure angle A is to the left. Is there an angle opposite to the right? Yes. So measure angle A and measure angle C are vertical angles. Okay? So now let's do another example, but this time with numbers. Okay? And then I'm going to post a separate video using IXL problems. Okay, so when you log in to do your work, go ahead and send me messages that pertain to IXL if you get stuck. Okay, so I'm going to try to do several problems at each level. So I'll do like maybe 3 or 4 easy, I'll do maybe 3 or 4 medium, and 3 or 4 difficult. Okay, so like at smart level, smart score, what is it, 85-ish? Okay, example 2. So let's make this right here, and then maybe you could have another line. It's no big deal. You have a bunch of angles everywhere, right? So we're gonna call, or not call, let's give these numbers. So let's say this is 150 and this is 30, because what do you notice? Don't these make a straight angle, meaning they should add up to 180, meaning that they are supplementary angles? So here we go. Just kind of keep that in mind, right? You just learned that. Now, if this is 150, what does this angle have to be? What do you notice about the angle? If this is 150, then this should also be 150. And not only that, right, they are vertical angles. And vertical angles are always, here's a word, congruent. Do you remember that word? It's the geometry word for saying that they are the same or equal, right? So they are congruent. So we got, let's call this A, B, I'll use a different color. We'll call this angle A, B, C, and D. So can you find all the vertical angles that you can see that are congruent? So all the angles opposite of each other. So let's, here, vertical angles. What are the vertical angles that you see? Angle A, so you don't have to put an M, you could just say angle A, and angle C, angle D, and angle B. All right, guys, so that's it. You learned all these words. Well, we reviewed some of them, right? Congruent. Congruent means the same, right? Equal. I'll take a screenshot of the notes, post that, and then you could use these notes to help you on your IXLs, okay? I'm also going to post another video of myself doing the IXLs. That way you have something to reference.